turn my thoughts within, dear Lord, for here is where you dwell, in your kingdom nestled in my heart, where everything is well. I turn my thoughts within, dear God, and find pure love and peace, harmony, the watchword here, apparent doubt and discord cease. For here is where I find the truth. There is one, the all in all, the truth that makes me free to be. I heed its every call. I turn within, dear Lord, for there you dwell, in my heart of hearts, where all is well. The love, the peace and joy that is spirit expressed, I find 'tis me, dear God, and make manifest. I turn within, dear Lord, for there you dwell, in my heart of hearts, where all is well. The love, the peace and joy that is spirit expressed, I find 'tis me, dear God, and make manifest. I turn within, dear Lord, for there.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to LifeLine. Thank you, Stevie Golding, for that beautiful chant, I turn within. This is an hour of connectivity, levity, love, and laughter with our very, very special guest. I'll introduce him in a little while, but we welcome each and every one of you to our hearts and to our program this evening. I'm practitioner Sandra Cooper, and it's my pleasure to be part of this wonderful discussion this evening. And so before we do anything further, I'd like to invite our senior pastor, Reverend Michelle, to do our opening affirmative prayer.
No, thank you, Sandy. And if you all would just take that journey inward with me and take some deep cleansing breaths, releasing and letting go of everything that occurred before this eternal now moment. And it's in this moment that we recognize that God is everywhere present, right here in this very space, connecting us because we are all one. I unify with the allness and the isness that is the divine. And it's from that place in my awareness, I speak my word declaring that this convening of LifeLine is absolutely perfect in every way. We are provoked into deep thought to contemplate matters of the spirit and of the soul. And for that, I'm giving thanks for our guest, Larry Chang, as he asks provocative questions, makes statements that require that we delve more deeply. So I know that this convening of LifeLine is complete in the mind of the divine, and we are participating in its outpicturing. So, with a heart that's full and grateful for opportunities to connect such as this, I give thanks. And I release my word now unto the law of manifestation, knowing that it is bringing the word spoken to this end. And let it go, we let it be, and so it is.
Thank you, Reverend Michelle. Friends, this program came into being in 2020 as we were navigating the period that has been called the pandemic. And it was just an opportunity for us to have a conversation together and to see how we could remain faith-based in spite of the temptation to be fear-based. And so we want to, the conversation guides us to into how we thrive and remain spiritually centered during times of challenge, and in being able to deal with whatever life presents to us. And this evening, we have a very, very special guest. Our guest this evening is one of our earlier practitioners at the Temple of Light Center for Spiritual Living. And he has worn many hats and followed many paths. And he has been, in turn and simultaneously, an artist, designer, editor, activist, trader, consultant, restaurateur, publisher, and author of 3 books, most notably The Wisdom of the Soul, subtitled 5 Millennia of Prescriptions for Spiritual Healing. He completed 3 years of religious science studies under the tutelage of the late Reverend Dr. Elmer Lumsden at the Temple of Light, at the time Church of Religious Science. It's now the Center for Spiritual Living. His interests include Zen Buddhism, evolutionary biology, holism, and environmentalism. His current preoccupation is a call for a paradigm shift in consciousness to meet the existential threat of climate change and economic inequity. Our guest left Jamaica in 2000 and has since lived in the United States, Thailand, and Portugal, where he writes and offers life counseling. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome our guest this evening, Larry Chang. Welcome to our hearts and to Lifeline this evening, Larry. It is such a joy to have you. I know you never left in consciousness, but it's good to have you in the physical, or even if it's in the virtual.
Thank you very much, Sandra. That was a very warm welcome indeed. Yes, in fact, I have never really left Jamaica, or maybe Jamaica has never really left me, but anyway, whatever. It's all one. There is no absence in the one presence.
And we for this month, we have in every opportunity, we have used those opportunities to speak to gratitude. The United States celebrated,
Actually, it's World Gratitude Month, the month of November. So you're coming in on the last day of the World Gratitude Observation.
Yes. So we wanted to see how do we close this month of gratitude in a way that allows us to think more deeply and to understand in consciousness the power of gratitude and appreciation. Over to you.
Well, it's hard for me to address this because it has given me, this subject of gratitude has given me a great challenge in the sense that we have been taught as children to be grateful, to offer thanks for gifts, for things that are done for us, for favors, for opportunities, for all kinds of things that, and rightly so, we should be grateful because we have been the beneficiary of so much good, so much bounty, so much, that is of good report and good effect. And that we really do have a lot to be grateful for. But the reason that I have come to the point of challenge is the fact that I recognize that at a social level, we need to be grateful, we need to be appreciative, and we need to honor and to celebrate all those persons who allow themselves to be channels of good for us and for our well-being. But where the challenge for me came in was the fact that we are also taught that we are one with the source of all good. So therefore, if we are one with the source of all good, then whatever good we experience is one and the same. So there is no giver and no receiver. Once we establish a giver and a receiver, we are basically pushing our good away from us. In other words, our good is not where we are. If we have to reach out to give thanks to someone else or to something else, even if we regard that thing as the source of all good, we have pushed it away. I don't know if you are following me.
Well, let me ask a
Because-
question for more
Sure.
clarification, if I could, Larry. And so you say that, that anytime that we give thanks for the good that we're receiving, we're pushing it away. And what I also know, however, and this you can help me with, is that gratitude raises our vibration, right? It keeps us in a much more positive, loving, harmonious state. So with that as, say, my premise, how does it rub against your current thinking and feeling about being grateful, being appreciative, being thankful?
Okay, I have to agree with you 100% about gratitude increasing our vibration. But if we are one with the source, then our vibration doesn't need increasing. It is already increased. We are there 100%.
But we don't always behave and operate from there.
We don't. So
Yeah.
this is why we need to aspire to this. And so this is why it has been a challenge. It has been difficult because as relative human beings, we are not always in that space of consciousness, of total unity with one. So this is an aspiration, really. I'm not saying that this is a prescription for everyone and everything, because we cannot always be there. But it has been a challenge for me, because every time I have to recognize that I owe a debt of gratitude to whomever or wherever or whatever, then, you know, I'm separating myself from the source of all good.
Okay.
It's as simple as that.
Okay.
So if I'm getting what you're saying, Larry, that there is this sense of being in one, being one with our good.
Yes.
It's a place to aspire towards.
Right.
Because there are some of us who are perhaps we worry, we may be anxious, and at that place perhaps the vibration is lower, and we don't have the type of experience that we could have if we were in that constant space of gratitude and appreciation. And so it's just to be conscious and to work at getting there.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
What do you do? How do you maintain that sense of oneness? And so that you know, it's what we all aspire towards, perhaps, but it sounds to me as if you're a little further along. What do you do? How did you get there?
Well, my major tool is meditation. And this is what I recommend to everyone, you know, for every reason. And because meditation cuts through this whole sense of separation, it cuts through any sense of differentness, of time, of space, of concern, of worry, of all of these things that exercise our minds, you know, from minute to minute. it's a kind of pause that you know, it's very hard to describe what meditation is and does, but that is the major tool that I use is meditation, which stops the thinking process. And also when it works, and it does work most of the time, it does put you in that space. Well, it's hard to even say that it's a space, but it does, you know, vault you into that position, that condition, that state of being one, of not recognizing any separation, of being appreciative of all the good that has come to you without being in debt to a source or a fount of good. When you recognize that you yourself are the fount, you are yourself are part of the source, then it becomes a little bit easier to see that there is no separation between your good and your experience of it. Your experience of it is just that. It's you know, it's odd.
So what I'm hearing, Larry, is a distinction. And what that distinction is if one feels indebted or obligated to say thank you for what they have received, that may create that perception of duality or being separate from the other. But what if one is just grateful? What one doesn't feel as though they owe anybody anything, but they're so appreciative, they're so thankful for the good that they are experiencing. Is that different?
It is different, but this is why I prefer to use the word appreciation rather than gratitude, because gratitude comes with too much psychic baggage because of how we have been brought up.
For some.
Well, I would think most, yeah. Yeah, I will give you that. Appreciation is really what I try to focus on. So that in instances where you feel the sense of gratitude, in order to avoid any sense of that separation, of that owing of debt, of being indebted to someone or something, then if we think of it as appreciation, then I think that we unify with it and with ourselves as the source, the demonstration, the instance and the example of all of the good that can be demonstrated through us and to us. As I said, you know, it's difficult. It has been exercising my mind for some time.
You know, there are some laws that were presented by two authors, Saffron and Logan, and one law says, the first law says that our performance, what we do, what we say, is determined by how things occur for us. And the second law says that the way things occur for us is in language. Subsequent to that means then that my understanding of gratitude and what gratitude means to me, and in just opening my heart and raising my vibration and being powerfully conscious of God's givingness in through and as me, versus perhaps how you see the word gratitude and what it means, what it has come to mean to you. And you know, in there is a woven separation with source. And so it's really just about perspective, isn't it?
It is. It always is perspective. It comes down to our experience of the world and just experience and how we interpret that experience. So this may be just my interpretation of gratitude, but you know, it's what I have to share.
Understood. We have a listener. He says, "Hey Larry, I'm curious about the nature of gratitude. In your opinion, is it more accurately described as a feeling or an emotion?" And then she has a follow-up. She says, additionally, would our understanding or experience of gratitude change depending on whether it's categorized as one or the other? A feeling or an emotion. This is how I'm getting it.
Well, I think it's both.
Mm.
It's both a feeling and it's an emotion. A feeling, I think, is something that you can more or less direct or control, whereas the emotion comes up spontaneously by itself. And I think that that can be both. And again, it depends on our experience and our education, our training, our exposure, our attitudes, how we were brought up. All of those things go to determine whether it is a feeling that we think we should feel and that we can direct or control, or if it is a spontaneous emotion that, you know, just comes up.
And we are learning, or over time, we've learned that we have choice.
We always have choice.
The more conscious we are, is the more we're aware of where we are in each moment, and we can make choices one way or the other, you know, to change our vibration or to stay and wallow. In, you know.
Well,
so,
I'm glad you brought that up, because it kind of gives me a justification. Not that I need any justification, but it gives me an out in the sense that in making my choice and choosing to think of gratitude in the sense of appreciating whatever it is, rather than even applying the word gratitude to it. Because for me, gratitude has, you know, all of these other connotations. Like, for instance, gratitude is associated with ingratiation, for instance. And we shouldn't have to feel ingratiated to anyone or anything for our good. In other words, it goes back to that sense of being perfect and whole as part of the one source. We are, in a sense, entitled to our good. So we need not be ingratiated for it. And again, this may sound like I'm being arrogant or ungrateful or any of those things. But, you know, all of those things I regard as social niceties and social conventions with which we have been brought up. Yes, you must be grateful for this, that, and the other. You know, your parents have done so much for you. Da, 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 da. All of that. Yes, at a certain level, that is all true. But you know, there comes a point where, you know, you have to then, you know, cut through all of that and recognize your magnificence and your brilliance and your perfection, and accept that your good belongs to you. It is part of you. You are not separate from it. And this is where I've come to the point that where I think that being grateful separates me from that sense of being.
So let me ask this now. God works for us by working through us. And
Through
also,
us.
many channels are open to us and opened for
Yes.
us as we navigate life. A person may call, a person may bring a gift, you know, a job comes up, you know, and so, you know, there's no man in the sky handing out presents to any of us, but life opens doors and opportunities left, right, and center. And
This is true.
until, up to my mind, when somebody brings me a gift, I'm going to say, thank you. I appreciate you. And I'm grateful for the gift. And so that, because the person on the receiving end, to my mind, is also being blessed by my appreciation, my gratitude, my expressed gratitude to him or to her, you know. And so I'm wondering if we're talking apples and oranges, because it's gratitude to my mind. It's thankfulness. It's, you know, I get the idea of the difference between how you see gratitude and so on. But at the end of the day, it's how what I do makes me feel, and how I'm left feeling when I express my thankfulness, you know, because when my vibration is high, then, you know, I'm open to receiving even more in that realm.
So I have a question for you, Larry.
Yes, this is all very good, and it's wonderful. But to go back to pick up on a point that you made, you spoke about life presenting opportunities and opening doors and, you know, providing all of this. And I'm not saying no, but I'm also saying that there is a point at which we realize that that life that is opening doors is you. Also, that those doors are you. You are no different from the life and the doors that are being opened.
Gotcha.
So, as I say, it's a very difficult thing to put your head around. But fortunately or unfortunately, that's where I'm pushed. That's where I am. And I cannot unknow what I know.
Understood. Reverend Michelle, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask a question, and that was with regard to, say, appreciation. Are you saying that when we are appreciative versus thankful or grateful, that it actually helps us to increase our own self-value and self-worth?
Indeed. And to be appreciative is to demonstrate that recognition of it. It is also to celebrate, all of the other channels, which are you, through which your good comes, or your experience, or whatever it is. So it is really a matter of just gathering all of the pieces and recognizing that they're all one. It's all the same. The giver of the gift itself, and the receiver are all one.
That's a big realization. Vance says, let me look in the chat here. It says, shouldn't we appreciate ourselves in totality?
Indeed, yes. And by the totality, I'm including the giver of the gift, the source of our good, and the means by which it comes about
Mhm.
as ourselves.
You know, it's,
So
it's
that is the full appreciation of
very,
ourselves.
very, very interesting conversation. You know, um, over the last couple of weeks, I've had an encounter with a thing called bronchitis.
Mhm.
And in my quiet time between coughing, I will ask myself, what is the lesson in this experience for me? What is the learning? And one, I've been extremely grateful for the rest that it has brought. Just being able to lie in my bed and sleep, rest.
Mhm.
And so, you know, in essence, one could give it as a label that's not something that one should be grateful for. But I have been really feeling grateful. Now, I think it's time for it to leave. You know, I've had enough learning from the experience, and it's time for it to go. But I'm really present to feeling an appreciation around this time that I have had to lie low and, you know,
Mhm.
think and, you know, still myself and get my physical body rested, you know, to facilitate the natural healing, you know. So yes, it was an interesting time to just be grateful for a condition that is, you know, is happening in my body at this time.
So Larry, do you think that gratitude and appreciation both facilitate love and emotional growth? Or is appreciation higher up on, say, if we were to put these feelings on a ladder, would appreciation be higher than gratitude? But then ultimately, don't both of them help to facilitate love and emotional growth?
Well, first of all, I would not want to rank them in any way because they are both valid and worthwhile states to be in. And they will serve different purposes. Not everyone is going to be at the same level, and therefore different things work differently for different people. It's just that, you know, unfortunately or fortunately, as I said, I've come to this point where, you know, I have a challenge with gratitude, in the sense that I feel that, you know, it is not where I should be going. It is not who I am. And it is distancing me further from where I should be and who I should be. Um, you know, that's what it is for me.
Understood.
This is not necessarily going to be true for everyone.
You know, Steve, he made a comment in the chat. He says, Larry is speaking in the absolute. Our socialization is what is diminishing our appreciation of what he is saying. And that's just his thought. But you're
Well, I
speaking in the
appreciate him saying that. But this is true in the sense that we do live in a relative world. But this is why I also emphasize that it has to be an aspiration. This is an aspiration to the absolute. But you know, that's where we are. And we have to continue to be to aspire, to grow, to be more of who we really are.
And just for the record, I am not diminishing your comments and your thoughts with regard to appreciation. I'm asking questions to provoke deeper discussion so that we can expand our understanding of what it is that you are conveying. So I just want to say that that is not what my intention is. by asking you these questions is, number one, to have a conversation. Number two, as I said in our prayer, was to provoke thought, to take us a little bit deeper.
Well,
So-
I appreciate your saying that, because this is the first time I've ever had the opportunity to even discuss these thoughts, because these are not thoughts that the average person would understand or even appreciate, or, you know, I just wouldn't start this conversation with most people. It's just not, you know, just not done.
Right, right.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we appreciate you having the conversation with us
Yes.
and entertaining our questions.
Mhm. You know, we have a comment from Arlene Hilton, who's in big caps. She says deep, you know, in relation to what you are saying. Deep.
And just so that you know, anytime I am going to be in this capacity that I'm in, I do research. And so a lot of my questions are research-based. And so I'm just letting you know, as a consequence of that research, that I did formulate some questions. And so that's where I'm coming from. So with that said, I also wrote this down in response to some of my research. Appreciation generates gratitude. But we're often grateful for help from loved ones, gifts from loved ones, without appreciating their efforts and their hardships. And so that came from Psychology Today. So what is your response to that statement? Appreciation generates gratitude, number one. But oftentimes we're grateful to people who have helped us. However, we don't go the next step to appreciating their efforts and their hardships.
Well, you know, I think that supports and underscores exactly what I've said. Yeah, because and it goes back to this thing about feeling and emotion. Yeah, we can be grateful to somebody and express gratitude, because that is a feeling that we are expected to have, and it is expected of us, and so we do that. But when we go the further step to the appreciation of the person, of the gift, of the opportunity, of what, then the next step from appreciation is knowing that we are one with the gift and the giver and the opportunity and the source. So there is no difference. It's all the one. So this is my own task, is to develop that appreciation, so that I'm in constant mind of this oneness, of this beingness, this presence that we talk about so glibly, but it is very difficult for us to root this into our lives, to have this embedded in our consciousness, so that regardless of what happens, for instance, Sandra just spoke about a health challenge. I also recently had a health challenge, and I had to come to the point where I'm recognizing the infection and the organisms that created that infection in me. I have to appreciate them, because they are me. They are other parts of myself, of that greater self. And for whatever reason, yeah, they have taken up residence in my system, and it is up to my system to decide whether it is going to eliminate them or welcome them or whatever it is. But it's all part of the process. And I'm grateful, because, you know, I'm alive. I'm feeling pain. And that brings me to mind that I am alive. I am vital, I'm vibrant, and feeling and responsive. And this is all part of the process. It's all one with the one.
Mhm. I appreciate you saying that, Larry. We often don't think about germs and organisms and the things that cause infection and ill health as something to appreciate.
Yeah, it's part of life.
Mhm.
There is one seamless fabric, which, if you want to call it, God has made, the creator has set up, or whatever. Yeah, the force, the universal mind, whatever. There is this one fabric of which we are a part. And so, that fabric can be woven with different colors. It may be a color that we don't like at a particular time, but, it's part of the fabric.
Indeed, indeed. Who do you share and how do you share these ideas? You did say that you don't just have the cocktail party conversations about this topic.
No.
But how do you discuss, articulate, or get clarity even in your own mind about this idea of appreciation?
Well, as I said, this is the first time I'm ever really sharing these thoughts with anyone, because I don't have anyone who that, as you say, you can't talk about these things at cocktail parties. I don't go to cocktail parties anyway.
Anyway.
So basically, I speak to myself, and I do it through writing. I'm doing quite a bit of writing. I just completed my memoirs, and I've started on, well, I suppose it's another form of memoir, but this particular one delves more into these kinds of thoughts. It traces my spiritual growth and evolution, yeah, from being brought up as a Catholic to begin with, and then going through all of that, and dealing with all the different beliefs and conventions, and disposing of them as I would. Yeah, and so that's how it is.
So, Larry, do you think that being self-reflective helps us to grow our innate ability to be more appreciative?
Oh, very definitely. Yes, very definitely. Because first of all, you have to appreciate yourself. It must start with you. And then by extension, you recognize that it includes everyone and everything else. But it must start with you. And if you don't appreciate yourself, then, you can't appreciate anything else.
I remember years and years ago, hearing a story about how you used to deal with critters that would come into the home, roaches and rats or ants or so on. You were very loving and very, very appreciative of their presence and would gently and lovingly usher them into the garden or out and away from the home.
Well, that story is somewhat apocryphal in the sense I was never very loving and welcoming to them, but I would try to reason with them. I would speak to them and invite them to leave. That's basically what I did, but I wouldn't say loving.
Really interesting how others embellish stories as they
Yes.
pass them on. Friends, if you're just joining us, our guest this evening on Lifeline is Larry Chang. We've been having a most interesting conversation about beyond gratitude, moving to that place of absolute appreciation of our oneness with all of life. And if you've been listening for the last 45 minutes or so, and you have any questions or anything, any further clarity you need from Larry, please just, make a note in the chat. And we will be happy to pass your questions and comments on to him. Okay. So what's next, Larry, as we, you were talking about, you've completed your memoir and you continue to write. What's stirring you now?
Well, it basically this, once you get to this point of consciousness, then there is no going back. It's like letting the genie out of the bottle. You cannot put it back. You can't go back to where you were. You cannot, you can't small up yourself, to use a Jamaican term. You have to move on. You have to continue. You have to grow. You have to expand. And if, there is no audience here, I don't have to have an audience. It's enough that I can express certain thoughts, dispose of certain thoughts sometimes, because you get to the point where you realize that, okay, well, that maybe doesn't work anymore. And so you continue to grow, because really, as divine beings, we are limited in consciousness at this level. And so I have to recognize that I'm not playing with a full deck. In other words, what is available to us is so much greater than we can imagine. And so therefore, I just have to keep going. I have to keep trying, because there is no point where I can say, I have arrived. I know it all. We haven't begun to know, because first of all, our language is limited. This is beyond language. This is beyond anything that we can conceive of. Yet at the same time, we have to continue. We have to persevere.
So one takeaway, Larry, from everything that you've said tonight about gratitude and appreciation. Appreciation doesn't require a transaction or even an interaction. So with gratitude, there's usually some transaction that's occurred, and then the person feels grateful and they reciprocate that, or feel as though they may have to reciprocate that. However, with appreciation, there's no transaction necessarily involved. It's just this feeling nature, just this sense of being appreciative.
Yes, but we as social beings, we can express that appreciation. And so those expressions of appreciation is what we share with others, so that they know that they are appreciated. In other words, we're spreading the love.
Got it.
Yes, Steve also commented that the idea of appreciation regardless. This is,
Yes.
that's how I understood what you were saying, Steve. That you love that. Yeah, got that. Yeah, so I can say thank you for something, but to just appreciate just the idea of givingness and generosity and kindness.
Yes.
And that it's life-giving to me, through me, I'm seeing the distinction. It won't ever stop me from expressing gratitude, but I'm understanding now that it's gratitude and then some, and the bigger,
and then some.
And the
there you go.
picture is appreciation.
Yes.
So maybe Lynn Twist was onto something when she coined that phrase, what you appreciate appreciates.
Yeah. Steve is appreciating your breakdown of the concept, Reverend Michelle.
Thank you.
Mhm. So, will we see you this side of the world anytime soon?
Well, it's not in the cards right now, but you never know.
Yes, that would be good. And your books are available on Amazon?
Yes, they are.
Okay. All right. Would you want to share the title? And I know that I have the one, oh, Wisdom for the Soul, 5 millennia of prescriptions for spiritual living. You're talking
Yeah,
about
that is
5,000 years of prescriptions for spiritual healing.
yeah, that is the main work, and it's the one that I think would be most relevant to your audience,
Mhm.
in the sense that these are all 5,000 years of quotations. It's over 12,000 quotations that I collected mostly when I was a practitioner intern at the Temple of Life. And I used to pepper my talks at the temple with these quotations. And so that is how the collection started, actually.
Mhm.
And obviously, I added to it so that I ended up with 12,000. And then I organized them into different categories
Mhm.
so that you could easily look them up,
Mhm.
quotations about, achievement, excellence, jealousy, love. And I separated love into two kinds, love eros and love agape. And there are other things like motivation and inspiration and all kinds of things, which were very useful as quotations to illustrate my talks when I gave them.
So question for you.
So yeah,
have
that's
you,
a
I was just gonna ask, have you
Sorry?
written anything with regard to economic equity? Because I know that's one of the areas that you are involved in. Have you written anything on that topic? Economic equity?
I have written it and it's published online. It's called Net Planetary Value. And it is a new paradigm that I'm suggesting to replace the monetary system. It is very involved, very complex, but yet simple at the same time. And it is so simple that it is not likely that it's going to be adopted anytime soon. The nearest thing that I can compare it to would be the Nepal Happiness Index.
Okay.
There is the Nepal Happiness Index, and there's also the GDP, which is a measure of a country's prosperity. Based on certain indicators of their economic activities. And then there is also the social index that they have introduced in China, which rewards people for socially constructive behavior and penalizes them for sociopathic behavior. So my index is somewhat of a combination of different elements of these systems. So if anybody who is interested, they can go to netplanetaryvalue.wordpress.com.
I will.
It's a little bit too involved to get into right here, but that's basically it in a nutshell.
But you know what? You actually became very, very vibrant as you were talking about it. So this is something that you obviously have some passion around.
Well, I do, because the world is at a particular stage right now. We are in a very critical stage, which everybody is ignoring. But it is a very critical stage where civilization itself is under threat. If things do not change soon, then things will be changed for us very drastically. And I see my proposal as one possible solution to halting this decline. If the decline is not halted, then all well and good. It is all part and parcel of the divine unfolding of the plan. Take it for what it is.
Steve is asking if you have ever heard of, is it Auroville? Auroville?
Auroville, yes, of course. Yes. It's the first intentional community, which has a lot going for it. It says a lot, but from my perspective, it is still embedded in the monetary system. And so therefore, while it has created solutions to communal living, it does nothing to affect the global economy.
Okay, got you. Oh, the hour has moved so quickly, but then, when you're present, time and space doesn't matter.
It doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist, but we're called back to recognize that we do live in a time and space situation. So it's almost at the top of the hour. Are there any last thoughts you would like to leave with us before we close this evening?
I just want to express my
Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for being there and for giving me this opportunity to express these thoughts, which, as I said, I've never shared before with anyone. So you could regard this as a premiere of sorts.
Oh,
so I appreciate you all for being there.
And right back to you, Larry. Oh,
you
have your beloved John on the he's saying, "Blessed my beloved friend."
Yes, and that is someone that I appreciate immensely.
Reverend Michelle, you were going to say something?
Oh, I was just saying that we really appreciate your taking the time to be with us and to articulate for the first time to other people your thoughts around these very challenging, to use your words, challenging topics. We appreciate you.
Yes.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Larry, would you be up to doing a closing affirmative prayer? Just to wrap this up, would you be up to that?
Okay.
I loved your treatments in the early days.
Well, that was early days. I think I've moved on a bit from there, but anyway. And so in this very moment, we come together in one mind to recognize that there is no difference between us. There is no separation between us because we are all one, belonging and of the same essence as the one power and the one presence which wraps us all together and embraces us and expresses itself through us in myriad ways. And so as we go forth into our separate lives, we take with us this consciousness of the one presence and the one power, which is always and ever expressing itself through us and by means of us. And this is the truth, and I release it now to that law which manifests it as our very lives. And so it is.
And so it is.
It lovingly is. Thank you so much, Larry. And thank also to Vance and Steve for the technical support for this program, and for everyone who joined online and who listened in to this discussion. Thank you, Reverend Michelle, for your input and very provocative questions. It really has been an interesting evening. Larry, it's good to have had you and to have had you share your thoughts with us this evening. And we look forward to, hearing much more about your journey as time passes. Thank you all so much for joining us, friends. Remember, if you choose to help us to continue to spread the light of truth, you can visit our website, and there's an opportunity there for you to share your consciousness and your treasure with us. Please join us on Sunday at 9 a.m. EST for Sunday morning service with Reverend Michelle. We look forward to seeing all of you in person or online. Okay, so thank you all very much. Have a wonderful and blessed evening.
Thank you all. Appreciate you.
Okay.